Hey everybody, it's Ben here, founder of Mailparser, a platform teaching individuals and companies how to build custom software workflows and tools without writing code. This show explores the people behind the no-code tools and the stories of folks using them to automate work and launch companies. Okay, today on this show we have Moritz, who was the founder of a company called Mailparser, DocPass, and now a company called Refiner. Moritz, welcome to the show.
Hey, Ben, thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on. There's obviously a few products in there. Do you want to just sort of walk us through which came first and what each of them were? Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, totally. So Mailparser was the first product I bootstrapped. It's a SaaS product. It's basically a data extraction tool. So I started Mailparser 5 years ago, basically as a side project. I was fiddling around with the idea to extract data from emails. And after a while, I had some kind of MVP product running, which apparently covered a nice business case, which is extracting data from recurring emails. And so I kept this as a side project for a couple of months or years, actually, until a point where it just grew and grew and grew. And then I went full time on it. And so this was 2015 that I went full time on Mailparser. I kept on growing this product for like one and a half years. And during that time, I had more and more customers asking for additional features. For example, extracting data from documents. So imagine PDF documents like invoices, purchase orders, and so on. And so I took the decision to create a second product, which then was called DocPass. And then, for like 2 years, I was basically running two products in parallel. One, which was called Mailparser, which was for email parsing, and then the other one, which was called DocPass for document parsing. And both products exist today. They are thriving and growing. However, I was lucky enough to be able to sell them 1.5 years ago. Like Mailparser first a couple of years ago, and then a little bit later DocPass to the same buyer. They are called Swift Capital. And then I took a short break and started my new venture, which is called Refiner.io, which I just launched a couple of weeks ago. And Refiner.io is a customer survey tool built for SaaS membership sites and e-commerce specifically. So I can, if you like, talk a little bit more about this later, but basically it's like little pop-up widgets which you can show on your website. For example, like them from NPS widgets, but you can ask any kind of question and then later on automate actions depending on the answers given by the user.
Awesome. So I think it's fair to say that you've been busy over the years. When was Mailparser? When did that start again?
Yeah, so it started as a side project around the beginning of 2014. And 2015, it was becoming a full-time job.
Okay, well, I mean that's not that long, I suppose. It's been like 5 years, and there's three companies in there. Not a lot of people would probably do that. I think. Where did the original, where did Mailparser as a side project come from? How did you figure out that there was a pain there that you could solve?
Yeah, so that's really going against all the wisdom which is out there, which is like, okay, first validate an idea and then make custom interviews and so on before you start coding. I am an engineer by trade, so I always liked coding. And I just thought the idea to get data out of emails automatically would be like something interesting to build. And it was actually after I launched an MVP on Hacker News. I did a show Hacker News post that it became really clear that there's actually a business case and a pain point to solve, which is, for example, there are like many people receiving hundreds of emails, the same type of emails every day. For example, they're sent from form on a website, a contact form on a website. And each time a user or visitor fills out this contact form, it sends an email to you. And this email has always the same structure. And inside this email, there's data which you need for your business. This could be an inquiry from a new customer, or this could be just something like a new listing on a website, and so on and so on. And so it became clear that people are actually wanting to get this information out automatically, and then use this information either by just putting it inside an Excel, or using APIs like webhooks and so on, or Zapier, to automate things afterwards.
Awesome. So you sort of found that from your initial product, there was an audience from a post on Hacker News and things like that, and what you were building was valuable, right?
Yeah, I mean, one thing which was really lucky is that when I posted that on Hacker News, the founders of Zapier.com were chiming in. And Zapier at that point was already taking off somehow, but was still kind of small. And basically they told me, oh, look, we have people actually asking for this kind of functionality. And it would be really cool if we had Mailparser on our platform. And so the first paying customers and the first traction came through Zapier. And for Mailparser, really along the way, I was basically riding the wave, this upcoming wave of Zapier as a automation platform, and me being some kind of plugin or very like a tool inside the Zapier platform, which you could use to parse emails. Later on, Zapier published their own email parser, but we still saw plenty of customers coming from Zapier because ours was more performant and was able to handle, for example, line items in invoices, like recurring data. It was just a little bit more robust than theirs.
Awesome. So yeah, you were there early on with Zapier. How many apps do you think Zapier had on when you went on there with Mailparser?
I would say less than 100.
Oh wow! So I think today they're like 2,000, right? So that's quite some time ago. And yeah, I wondered, so you built the integration for Zapier, and then they listed you, and then sort of just leads came through that way. Is that right?
Yeah, and then there was also and then yeah, for sure, it's always the same. If you build your product or your business based on the platform, you become pretty dependent. So really early on, I also wanted to find other acquisition channels. And for Mailparser and DocPass, those two products, content was working pretty good for me because like blog articles, pretty technical blog articles, because my users were, let's say, at least tech savvy. They were not developers, but tech savvy. And so they were looking for specific terms at Google. For example, how to extract data from documents to Excel, like a really long phrase. And so we made sure that we have the right content on our blog and our website so that we could get this traffic. And then we also branched out to other automation platforms like Microsoft Flow. And I think the guys today, they are also working on getting Mailparser and DocPass listed on more NoCode and automation platforms.
Awesome. You said about the content marketing. I know we've had a conversation about content marketing previously as you're one of the mentors in Earnest Capital. So, I mean, I always struggle with the content marketing advice of like, oh yeah, content marketing worked for us. We found a phrase, so we did like blogging. I think it's mostly down to because I'm an awful writer. Like I don't know where to start. To me, it seems like one of those really difficult things to put together, but some people it's the complete opposite. It's like the easiest thing to think of. What was your process of, okay, how do you find this phrase, and then how do you say, okay, well, let's write 500, 1,000 words with whatever else to actually nail that piece. And then I suppose how long is it until you start seeing that come back around to people actually finding you?
Yeah, that's a good question. First, I think I need to make clear that what we did was basically trying to respond to people who already knew that they needed our solution or this kind of solution. So
Yeah.
basically, we were not able to raise awareness, or at least when I was running those two applications, I was not able to raise awareness amongst people who didn't know about this kind of technology before. So we never did content in the form of really like top of the funnel content where we're speaking about very broad topics, which then could lead to interest in our brand, and then they would discover our solution. When what we did in terms of content was really specific articles about very specific technical problems. For example, DocPass use a technology which is called OCR, optical character recognition. It's very technical. And so we basically made an article about what is OCR, first of all, how to improve the accuracy of OCR, and so on and so on. So we were really speaking to people who had a specific problem, technical problem, and then we could basically leverage a little bit also my engineering experience from building this product, because I was looking into OCR, so I was teaching myself this, and so I could share this knowledge as well. And it was knowledge which was interesting for our audience. Or to give you another concrete example, for Mailparser, Mailparser was about extracting data from emails. And one article which was working pretty good for us was how to mass forward emails from Gmail to another email account. So it had it was not really about extracting data from emails, but it was talking to the same kind of user, because we were talking to people who apparently have a lot of emails, so that they need to mass forward them automatically somewhere else. And so, yeah, we try to stay very concrete bottom of the funnel, like people with a purchase intent. That was the first goal, responding to people who already knew what they were looking for. And then also trying to speak a little bit about more generic topics, but which were really close to what we are doing.
Awesome. How long was it into Mailparser where you decided to go full time, and then was it just you at that point, and then did you hire a team?
Yeah, exactly. So I went full time on Mailparser when it made 5,000 MRR. That was basically at the point where I couldn't ignore it anymore. You know, when I started it, I first started it as a side project, and I thought, okay, it could become a little profitable passive income type of business. Then it became bigger and bigger, and it just continued. And then it was at a point where I said, okay, I really want to know how far I can go with that if I go full time on it. And so that was when it made 5K. And really quickly afterwards, I was hiring somebody who helped me for the support. And so basically, even though it made 5,000 MRR in the beginning, it was not profitable in the sense that I could pay myself a decent salary. So my first hire was somebody on support, because it was as I said, a very technical product, and we were doing a lot of hand holding for the new customers, trying to explain them how things are going. And we always try to, we didn't want to offer a done for you service in the beginning. We also didn't want to bill for service, which we provide them, but we also wanted to make sure that they really get the most out of the app. So we offered to help them with the setup and so on. And hiring somebody on support was good in the sense that it was immediately giving me back time. So my colleague Joshua, he was working in technical support before. He was up to speed in 1 week, and it was just taking a lot of stress off my back. And then the next hires were Tom for marketing, who basically took over the entire marketing and brought this thing, like pushed it through the roof, let's say like this. And I myself stayed on the product and product development and so on.
Awesome. When was it in this journey then that DocPass started like coming into? Because I assume most people would think, oh, I can see that lots of people want to do document parsing here, like, and so we should just add this as a separate piece of the current business. What was the thought process of, okay, I'm going to start another company doing the same? Like, I guess the setup, or a lot of the setup was the same. We'll set up another company, we'll put it on Zapier, and we'll do a lot of content marketing around these key searches. Is that how it went?
Yeah. So this is definitely you're right. Like the normal reaction would be, okay, we are just adding document parsing capabilities to Mailparser, and this is what I did in the beginning. So basically, I added the possibility to extract data from email attachments. And this was working pretty good. And as I said, there was more and more demand. And then it was basically becoming clear that this is actually a much bigger market, because getting data out of email is one thing. This is interesting for people who are working online mainly, who are having online-based business. But getting data out of documents, for example, invoices or purchase orders, all this kind of stuff, this is basically interesting for all kind of businesses, also offline businesses. And so when it became clear that this is at least an opportunity of at least the same size or even bigger, I thought it would make sense to just separate those two in two products. And one reason for that was also to just make it more easy in terms of marketing, because I felt like I'm already had a difficult time to tell people what Mailparser does. Like there were so many different use cases, so many things you could do with it. And then telling people, look, it's an app which is called Mailparser, but you can also do documents. So this would have meant I would need to rebrand the thing, like call it universal parser or whatever. And then I thought, okay, but this then has also implications in the product, because even though it sounds like the same thing, it's still different from a technical point of view to get data out of an email as it is, for example, to get data from a scanned document, because, for example, for the scanned document, you need to do OCR and all this kind of stuff, which is just, so I was afraid of bloat in terms of marketing and also in terms of products. And I was thinking it would be nice to have two very specific, very small and easy to understand products which do something like with a very limited scope, but they do it really good. And I think in the end this played out pretty good, because as it turned out, the use cases of email parsing are actually quite different than the use cases for document parsing. For example, people who are using Mailparser are mainly extracting contact data, or often extract contact data like leads and all this kind of contact related information, while DocPass is playing much stronger in the whole purchasing cycle, from, there's a new order coming in, we would need to put this order in the ERP system, and then there's a new invoice coming in and we want to get data out of this invoice and so on. So it's two different formats, but also two different use cases. So in the end, it made sense to just separate in two products.
Makes sense. Was it actually like legally set up as one company, or was it two completely separate things?
No, it was one company with two products.
Okay. It's interesting. And then how are you running two companies in conjunction with each other? And obviously we just touched on that, like there were similar pieces, so like the approach and things like that were similar. how was it running two companies that were obviously solving a problem for their customers? I think people struggle with trying to just get one company to do that thing. So yeah, it's interesting to see that you managed to do two. And how long were they sort of crossing over as two like fully running companies?
It was, let's say it was two products in the same company. It was the same team, and we split our time on two products. So this made it much easier. It was not that I needed to manage two different teams, and also from the technical point of view, as I was developing this, it was more or less the same tech team working on the same products. And in the beginning, those two products were pretty similar, and but then over time they evolved each in their own direction. And but yeah, it was actually, to be honest, pretty stressful, and to a point where I thought, okay, I cannot do this anymore with this small setup. So to really take this whole enterprise forward, I would need to massively hire, actually, or at least hire like double the team size. And then this would maybe also imply that I would need to take an investment to actually have the runway to pay the people. And so basically 1 year in, I was asking myself these questions like, okay, like right now it's pretty stressful. How can this continue? And so one option then was for me to say, okay, Mailparser is basically finished in terms of product. Like I mean, it's never finished, but it was like the main features were in place, and it had its market, and was running smoothly. And then on the other side, there was DocPass, which needed a lot of work still, like in terms of product marketing and so on. So I thought, well, if there's maybe a possibility to sell Mailparser and focus with the current setup of the team members on DocPass. So basically stay small, cash in on Mailparser, and then continue running growing DocPass. And this was some kind of shower idea in the morning, but it just made sense. And I actually with SureSwift Capital, I found a buyer who was okay with that. And so we had some kind of handshake deal that I'll continue growing DocPass, focus on DocPass, and when it makes sense for me to sell DocPass, I would be able to sell it to them as well.
Okay, so it was sort of like, okay, we'll have this piece now, and then when you're ready to give us the other piece, we'll also take that.
Yeah, because the buyer, the SureSwift Capital, they are interested in a certain size of company for acquiring, and DocPass wasn't there. So it wasn't that interesting for them at that point, but I was pretty sure that I can grow it to a point where it would become interesting to them.
Okay, cool, awesome. And then how long was it with DocPass? Did you get it to a point where then you were ready to sell it, and then it was, I think you said there was like, you had a little break, and again, this is all within 5 years. So how long was that?
The break was way too short, and there was actually a long transition time. I agreed with SureSwift Capital that I would continue running DocPass for, let's say, a year, just to bring it on a certain milestone. So basically the contract was based around milestones and stuff. And so I stayed with SureSwift Capital for nearly a year, actually. But in the end, I was working less and less and less. So basically, I was transitioning out really smoothly, very slowly. And then, the last months were pretty quiet for me. So I started looking into what could be next. And so basically, it was more or less like, I want to do something anyway. I mean, I like my work, and also we are settled here in Paris. We have kids. My wife is working, so we were not in the spirit of, okay, let's just travel the world and not work for 1 year. So I thought, okay, I need to work on something. So why not just look into next idea. And then Refiner started very slowly, and yeah, I mean, it accelerated in the end of 2019, so where it became more and more also full-time job. So the break was not a real long break. It was just a couple of weeks of keeping it slow, being bored a little bit, and then looking into a new idea.
Yeah, I mean, some people have a vacation that is longer than that. So, I mean, yeah, breaks are quite weird, I suppose. So, how did you then get the idea or the beginnings of the idea that would be Refiner? Where did that come from?
That came actually directly from growing DocPaser. So with DocPaser, we had the situation that we had quite a lot of signups every day. So it was basically a good situation to be in. But let's say it was north of 50 signups per day. Actually, much more. But anyway, it was too much to just go through them every time somebody created an account, and it was a very mixed bag of signups. So there were people in there who just wanted to check out what DocPaser is and have a look, but in those signups were also people from Fortune 500 companies who had an urgent need and who were ready to purchase. And so basically we wanted to qualify those signups. We just wanted to know more about who they are. And so we thought about adding questions to the sign-up process. But then we figured that some of the questions we want to know, they are too complicated to answer during sign-up. For example, we wanted to know how many documents do you want to process per month? Or what type of documents do you want to process? And this question is very difficult to answer if you don't know the product yet. So what we figured out, it was much better to just give people some time to explore the product, look around, look what they could do with it, and then ask those questions. So what we wanted to do is just launch some kind of one-click surveys, like really just something really small inside the app where you could then ask a question saying, how many documents do you want to process per month? There are 4 choices. The user would click one, and that's it. We would say, thanks, all good. And then in the background, we would be able to say, okay, this guy answered like this, so he's apparently a very interesting lead. Maybe we want to reach out to him, or maybe we want to double check if he's already successful or what's missing, and so on. So it was growing out of our own need. And then I got more and more into this topic about what could be done with little, what I call micro surveys, like on-page surveys, little pop-ups which pop up in the corner of a website. And I figured that most competitors out there were about doing product research, for example, just trying to check out what kind of feature your users want, or like getting more or less statistics from your users. But what I wanted to do is basically take the answers user gives me and then automate things based on their answers. For example, to give you a concrete case, you're running an NPS survey inside your app asking how likely are you to recommend our app to a friend on a scale from 0 to 10. And then if the user says very likely, for example, 9 or 10, then you would maybe trigger automatically an email to him saying, hey, thanks a lot for giving us a good rating. Would you be up to write a little testimonial for us on this and that platform, for example, Captera.com or like those review platforms? And so basically looking at, for example, NPS surveys, not just as a tool to measure over time how good you're doing, but also use it as a tool to automate actions for this user afterwards.
Oh yeah, that's really interesting. So yeah, you could just have it that how likely are you gonna to recommend a friend? They say very likely. You say okay, well recommend us then. Like give it to them there and say whilst they're in that like mindset of yeah, I'm very happy with this product. I would recommend it, and then having something automatically come in like that. Are there like templates of workflows, or there some sort of standardized templates that you see people using often that are okay? When this thing happens, then we do this.
Yeah, this is definitely something I need to work on a little bit more. I'm already having a section on our website which is called playbooks, and I want to add many, many more to them. So one of the most popular is definitely the NPS survey, where you would ask how satisfied are you with our product, or how likely are you to recommend it, and then basically request or ask for a testimonial or review afterwards. But then there are also things like we did in DocPassor, where you would ask lead qualification questions like how big is your team, what's your job role, and so or how urgently do you need the solution, and so on and so on. And this data could then flow into your CRM if you're using one, to then give you an alert each time somebody answers like this or that. That's a very popular use case. And then there are the more traditional use cases of just trying to understand who your users are, by asking them questions and doing statistics later on, like, oh, okay, 30% of our users are agencies of less than 5 people, for example.
Yeah. So with are those does someone need to be technical to be able to set up the automations, or is it like a really simple
Yeah,
UI? And is there any like integrations pulling through to Google Sheets or something like that?
yeah, definitely. Like all my products are actually, I would, as I say, I think for all my products, they are for tech savvy people, but definitely not for developers. So with Mailparser, DocParser, and with Refiner, it's basically, yeah, you can set it up without any code. Everybody can set it up, and then there's a very strong focus on automation. And so basically, in Refiner, whenever a survey was filled out, then you can launch, for example, a webhook, or you can send the data to Zapier, or you can send it to Segment. And I'm working on more additional integrations. And for example, Google Sheets is on my to-do list as well. And but alone the fact that you can send it to Zapier allows you to do all kind of things like sending emails or adding the data to your CRM system and so on. So basically, I mean, it's maybe not obvious on the first look, but even all those 3 products are working the same kind of way. There's some data coming in, and then something is done with this data. And mostly this data is just sent somewhere else. So I feel like Refiner is in the way, you set it up once, and then you don't need to log in every day. It's more about you set it up once and you let it run, and each time a customer answers a question, it will automatically trigger a workflow somewhere else.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can definitely, my mind's going a bit crazy of things we could implement now with that sort of stuff. Because I mean, people have a natural thing. Like at the moment, we have a wait list, so people fill out a form that just goes into an Airtable, and then I'll do some filters or look at it, and then like we've got some data there, and then we'll follow up and ask them certain things, and all of these things could be automated, but not like it doesn't have to be that. It could be whilst they're browsing the site, right? Or if they're looking around and finding out some things, looking at a tutorial or something, and then you have something different that's, oh, is this like, would you like to learn how to build this lesson type stuff? And then you can send them a sneak peek of that video or something. Yeah, literally.
That was also a very, I forgot to mention that actually for DocPass. This was, the use case was, okay, we want to identify good leads. We want to identify big accounts. So this was one thing about it. But also the other question we were asking was, what type of documents do you want to process? And then based on this answer, we were sending out trip campaigns to them with a specific content tailored to them, because we knew these guys are using our app for this and this use case. And so we have content on that. And then we were just sending out through customer IO trip campaigns to them on making sure they're receiving exactly the content they need and not content they're not interested in. So this whole segmentation and in like, it goes a little bit into personalization and just making sure that the experience for your user is tailored to them. And as an entry point, we have those refiner micro surveys which pop up at the exact right moment, asking one or two very, very simple questions. And then based on this data, you can improve the experience of your user.
That's awesome. It seems like, as much as you said, the first with Mailparser, you didn't do the usual customer interviews and whatever sort of the standard startup playbook is. It seems like a few of these, well, the three companies that you've now built, all have sort of very similar playbooks. Is that thinking that that's almost like the type of company you like to build? And do you think there may be a path for Refiner to do the same thing as what Mailparser and DocPaser did?
I think you are right when you look at the type of product. Like, all three products are tools, so they're not platforms where you spend your day in it. It's more like a data tool. So you set it up and it's an addition to your current workflow or platform. Yeah. From a technical point of view, it's the same. They are answering to a specific needs. And even to go further, it's always the same. There's data coming in, the software is processing the data, and then the data is going out somewhere through integrations. So there's definitely that. However, when it comes to marketing, I think that for Refiner, I really still need to figure it out, to be honest, because as I said, Mailparser and DocPass were both very technical products, and we were speaking to people who had a very well-defined problem and needed a quick solution to that right now. And so for the content, it was pretty easy to come up with something. For Refiner, I feel like I'm much more, I mean, there are hundreds of survey apps out there, and it's super noisy. So if I look in Google, for example, for survey pop-up surveys, it's just, I mean, it will take me years to climb up the rankings there. And so yeah, I think the playbook is the same for the technical point of view, but in terms of marketing, I really need to figure out still things, and that's also interesting as a challenge. And but then let's see. I mean, I'm open to where things are going with Refiner. I think if possible, I would keep it self-funded for a while, just to stay small and flexible, and then maybe join an accelerator program later on, something like you did with MakerPad. That would be interesting, but I think I will not go down the traditional VC route of this go big or go home. The goal stays to build a company which resembles me and which I like running, and I'm pretty sure I would not enjoy running a 200 people startup. Would be too much stress.
Yeah, I think potentially you and I both. I was thinking of like, sorry, before I go into the next question, how many people are on the Refiner team now? Is it just you, or?
Yeah, I was working with two freelancers really early on. One who was helping me with the design, and then Pavel, who basically took over marketing really early on, because I thought there's a challenge in SEO. It's going to be really tricky to rank. So I wanted to put some resources into getting some domain authority in there really early on. However, there was a part I didn't talk about yet in 2019 when I was working on Refiner. I got somehow derailed in a way. I was basically not putting much focus on the service, what I'm doing today, but went into a thing which is called lead scoring and product qualified leads and whatsoever. Like I got somehow off track, and I spent a lot of time and resources there. And so around Christmas, I decided to stop doing that, go back to what I actually wanted to do, build a small, nice survey tool specifically for SaaS, e-commerce, and membership sites. And so right now I'm working alone on it. And I would definitely like to hire soon again for marketing and product design. But I feel like I how to say it, I want to stay as close as possible to the product for now as I could, and then be able to iterate really quickly. And once I feel like now it's scaling, then definitely I need to hire. I hope it's going to be very soon.
Yeah, awesome. I think there's a ton of ways that, like I said, my brain started going a bit crazy thinking of all the things that we could use Refiner for at MakerPad, and there's definitely ways we can engage the community on figuring out some of these templates and seeing what wonderful things there are with the no-code audience. Do you see any, like, what have you seen of the no-code space so far? Because I've said recently that you don't have to be a no-code tool to be part of a no-code solution. So Refiner for me, or even DocPass or Mailparser, none of them would be sort of quote-unquote no-code tools, but they all definitely help with a non-technical person being able to do something quite technical, or have some of these workflows and automations to do something that they would probably need technical skills for previously.
Yeah, it's definitely, like, for example, in DocPass, we saw first people who were automating internal workflows, for example, getting data out of invoices and so on. But then later on, we actually, and this is what I think where you with MakerPad are getting more and more traction, is like people building actually their business around those tools. Like they build a business with this kind of tools. They just don't use them to automate some little specific task, but the entire business is built on it. And for example, on DocPass, we had accountants who were parsing data from credit card statements to then analyze this data automatically, to then suggest things to their clients. And so today, where I see Refiner in the no-code movement is, for example, if you are running a membership business, or if you are like with gated content, or like educational material things, you have like the anonymous visitors on your website. This is one thing. Okay, you could survey them, but much more interesting is working with your actual existing customers. And for example, if they log in 5 times, after the 5th login, you would ask them, hey, do you want to do this and that? And if they answer yes, then you could suggest that maybe you can hop on a call with them or offer them other services to them. So right now with Refiner, I feel like there's a lot of value we can add for existing customer bases where you already have users, but you want to upsell them or just get more info from them. And the way I understood it is like in the no-code movement with platforms like Bubble, you can do more and more of those community backends where you could leverage definitely Refiner for it.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to using it some more and putting it out to the community to see what other people come up with. It's been great to have you on the show. Thanks so much for sharing your story. Where can people go and find out more about you and the products you're building?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Ben, for having me. So if you are interested in Refiner, that's refiner.io. And personally, I am most active on Twitter these days. It's Dausinger, that's MDAUSINGER, where I mostly tweet about B2B SaaS, tech, all this kind of stuff. So definitely follow me on Twitter or just go to refiner.io, create an account. It's free. We have a freemium plan, and happy to hear from your audience and whoever wants to speak with me.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. We'll speak to you soon.
Cool. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks so much for listening. You can find us online at makerpad.co or on Twitter at makerpad. We'd love to hear if you enjoyed this episode and what we should do next.